All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we are going to shatter this illusion that Jay-Z and Beyoncé are just, highly successful musicians. We're about to completely deconstruct the actual financial architecture of their empire. Because what they've built, it's something genuinely rare in modern entertainment. While millions of fans are busy counting their Grammys, the reality is that Wall Street should be intimately studying their term sheets. It is an absolute masterclass in vertically integrated ownership across two parallel careers. And today, we're going to see exactly how this machine works.
You know the lyric, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but honestly, it's not just some clever play on words. It is the literal operating philosophy and the foundational theology behind their unprecedented wealth. Shawn Carter treats himself as a holding company. Think about what that actually means for a human being to do that. It's the ultimate separation of personal emotion from strategic asset acquisition. Every single feature, every tour, every public appearance is fundamentally calculated as a corporate action, all designed to increase the equity value of that holding company. And here is the result of that mindset: $3.5 billion. According to recent valuations, Jay-Z sits at $2.5 billion, and Beyoncé has crossed the $1 billion mark, making them the wealthiest couple in the entertainment industry by a massive margin. To really put this into perspective, if you're a top-tier artist relying solely on Spotify payouts, getting fractions of a penny per stream, or standard endorsement deals where you just collect a flat fee for your likeness, you will simply never reach this level. This number requires entirely different math.
When you actually break down his total wealth, there's this tiny piece, just 4% of his net worth, that represents his $95 million music catalog. It's a total reality check. This definitively proves that his immense fortune wasn't built primarily on record sales, touring income, or streaming royalties. The music, that's just the top of the funnel. The actual empire was built on massive corporate structuring and ownership far outside the recording booth. Section 1. The Foundation, Securing the Masters. Let's look at how this all started. This is where the ownership mindset truly began. Coming from the Marcy projects in Brooklyn, Jay-Z totally bypassed the usual exploitative artist deals. When major labels initially passed on his debut, he and his partners famously sold CDs right out of their car trunks. That ground-level demand forced a 50-50 joint venture with Def Jam. But his third move was the absolute masterstroke. He eventually leveraged his appointment as president of Def Jam into the legal repossession of his actual master recordings. To understand why this is such a big deal, you have to know that the master recording is the holy grail of the music business. The owner of the master gets paid every single time that song is played, streamed, or licensed into a movie, forever. He didn't just renegotiate a contract, he executed an audacious, legendary corporate maneuver to take over the parent company and secure his foundational assets. So instead of fighting for pennies from a broken piggy bank, they essentially built the factory. The crucial point here is that they didn't just want to participate in the music industry. They wanted to own the infrastructure that makes hit records profitable in the first place. While his peers were battling in court for a few extra royalty points, Jay-Z was making forensic corporate trades to own the underlying intellectual property itself. Section 2. The Taste Arbitrage Play. All right, let's unpack this highly sophisticated business strategy Jay-Z deployed to create over $1 billion completely outside of music. I mean, why settle for $1 million endorsement check when you can just own the company, right? This is a concept traditional financial advisors absolutely need to study. Taste arbitrage. Jay-Z identifies categories, like luxury spirits, where brand perception directly drives pricing power. Instead of just acting as a paid ambassador, he acquires the asset or takes a massive equity stake. He then injects it with his unparalleled cultural credibility and just watches the valuation skyrocket. His moves in the spirits industry perfectly map out this playbook. He acquired Armand de Brignac, which most of us know as Ace of Spades, outright back in 2014. But how did he build its cultural value so quickly? Well, he famously boycotted Crystal Champagne and started exclusively featuring these striking gold Ace of Spades bottles in his music videos and at public events. He essentially turned global culture into a zero-cost marketing engine, driving massive worldwide demand without traditional ad spend. He held the asset, and then in 2021 sold a 50% stake to LVMH at a $640 million valuation. 2 years later, he executed the exact same play, selling his majority stake in the Douce cognac brand to Bacardi at a staggering $3 billion valuation. Over $1 billion. Just let that massive number sit for a second. Those two strategic spirit exits alone netted him over $1 billion in cash. That is the incredible compounding power of cultural capital when it's properly converted into financial instruments. He builds the prestige at zero cost and then exits to the world's largest luxury conglomerates at absolute peak pricing.
Section 3. Vertical Integration and Parkwood.
Now, let's pivot over to Beyoncé's side of the empire and see how she ruthlessly engineers middlemen right out of her revenue streams. Her structural discipline is honestly just as incredible. In a standard label deal, the revenue bucket is full of holes. Labels front the costs and keep the masters, booking agents skim 10 to 15% off the top, and third-party vendors license the merchandise rights. But by founding Parkwood Entertainment in 2010, Beyoncé created a fully vertically integrated company. She self-produces. She controls the massive touring infrastructure. She effectively plugs all those holes, stopping the revenue from bleeding out to third-party promoters and agencies, bringing it all entirely in-house.
So what's the direct result of all that vertical integration? When her Renaissance World Tour grossed an astonishing $580 million, think about the logistics involved. We're talking stadium rentals, massive lighting rigs, hundreds of staff members, catering, elaborate stage design. Normally, an outside production company takes a huge second slice of the gross just to manage that chaos. But here, the production company in the room taking that massive slice of the pie was Parkwood, the company she wholly owns. Every single ticket, every shirt, every concert film flows right through her own balance sheet first.
And looking at how she handles brand partnerships, specifically the 2019 Ivy Park deal with Adidas, is just brilliant. When the line didn't hit internal projections, the asymmetry of the outcome is honestly awe-inspiring. Adidas absorbed all the financial downside, sitting on mountains of unsold inventory and a $200 million shortfall. Beyoncé, on the other hand, collected her guaranteed $20 million a year, retained the brand intellectual property entirely, and walked away with absolutely zero financial downside. That is the textbook definition of forcing massive institutions to carry all the risk.
Section 4. Strategic Bets and Exits. Let's open up the venture capital chapter of their playbook, because even their perceived failures are actually masterclasses in wealth extraction. Through Marcy Venture Partners and his own personal investments, Jay-Z turns small, highly convicted early bets into staggering multiples. For example, he invested $2 million in Uber back in 2011, and that stake grew to approximately $70 million. The reason he's such a lethal venture capitalist is because he isn't just guessing based on Wall Street spreadsheets. He sits at the absolute epicenter of culture. He knows what consumers are going to want next because he's literally the one creating the movements. Which brings us to Tidal. The public narrative loved calling Tidal a massive failure because it couldn't beat Spotify's core subscriber numbers. But if you look past the headlines, the math tells an entirely different story. Jay-Z bought the platform for $56 million, held the asset, and then finessed a masterstroke sale to Jack Dorsey's block for around $300 million. He didn't need to win the multi-decade streaming wars. He had the brilliant insight to understand Tidal as a financial asset to be quickly flipped, not some legacy tech platform to be operated forever.
Section 5. The Unified Wealth Architecture.
Let's bring all these compounding threads together to see the true masterpiece they've constructed as a family. Because these aren't just two rich people who happen to be married, and these aren't competing businesses. They act as puzzle pieces perfectly locking together. Beyoncé's Parkwood is the producer, precision engineered to completely maximize the capture of her own income across tours, film, and massive global brands. Conversely, Jay-Z's Roc Nation is the platform. It acts as this institutional tax on excellence, collecting a diversified percentage on the success of hundreds of other artists and athletes. Together, they cover absolutely every corner of the entertainment ecosystem. Then, you add in an appreciating real estate portfolio worth $350 million, which includes an incredible $200 million Malibu compound designed by the legendary architect Tidal. This architectural pedigree is just another form of taste arbitrage. These aren't just homes, they are ultra-rare physical art pieces that project immense institutional power, force highly lucrative deal flow to come directly to them, and appreciate rapidly in the most supply-constrained luxury markets in the world. So, what are the crucial takeaways from this explainer? The absolute bedrock principles you should apply to your own understanding of wealth are right here. Build cultural value before you sell. Remember that ownership always beats flat income. Structure your deals so the massive downside falls on the institution, not on you. Constantly retain your intellectual property. And integrate your assets so they compound together. Own the platform, keep your IP, and fiercely manage your risk. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on today. In your own life, your own projects, your daily work,
Are you just participating for a paycheck to build a career, or are you building an institution? Thank you so much for joining me to break this down, and I'll see you in the next explainer.